Welcome to episode 21 of the Two Average Guys Sport Podcast. Just a couple average dudes talking about sports. No foreign playing experience, no former management experience. Literally two average guys. My name is Sam. This is my co-host here, Espen. How are we doing today, man?
We're doing good. It's almost the weekend. Our podcast is as old as us now. Happy 21.
Oh, shit. That made me feel old.
Our podcast is legal. Our podcast can drink now, so there you go. What are you?
There's no Brandon on this. It is water for people that are under 21, for people that are 21 and or older, and or if you are in another country and the drinking age is 18, it is tequila. Just throwing that out there. I mean,
yeah, that's very true.
But we got some NBA news as always. MLB, college football, a little bit of college basketball. Espen's going to take that one as always, and then we got our bets of the week. And NFL. NFL as always, yes.
Yeah.
How could I forget? Dummy.
Yeah, literally the only important sport on right now.
Literally the only sport that's on, one of two leagues that are on right now. Shall we go ahead and get it started?
Let's do it.
All right, so NBA news. Obviously the season ended, but we still have a bit of head coaches to be hired. So Houston, crappy old Houston who's never made it past like the second or third round. They hired Mavs assistant. Steven Silas has new head coach. Thoughts?
I don't know too much about him. I know he's a Dallas assistant for a while, but I like it. I think he's a younger dude. I saw his father coach in the NBA for a long time, and I think Houston needs a younger guy to I could be completely wrong. He could be in his 50s or 60s, but from the picture I saw of him, I think he looked like he was maybe in his 40s, I want to say. So young-ish. So I don't know too much about him, but what are your thoughts?
I like this, and here's why. Because Rick Carlisle is a very good coach. I know the record doesn't always show it, but I think by seeing him, seeing how he coaches, getting that experience under him, I think this is a pretty good hire. Also, it's a little bit something that's different, something that's new, and I think it fits Houston well since what they're trying to do is try and play different than the rest of the league. So it's definitely a good hire, but we're going to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and I've seen some rumors that maybe Houston's trying to get rid of James Harden, which that I could see.
I think there are teams out there, but I think they're in the same boat if they trade him and try to make Russell Westbrook that team. I think Harden's a better player than Westbrook, but I couldn't see it being a big addition to have Russell Westbrook as your star.
No, I think Houston's going to take a step back next season.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of teams, obviously in the West get better. You have the Pelicans, you have the Grizzlies, the Suns. Those are some teams that didn't make the playoffs. The Mavs, the Warriors are coming back fully healthy. You have all those teams, and so I think that they're going to be looking on the outside. If not, they'll probably get like the 8 or 7 seed. But it's definitely going to be fun to watch the West next year.
Yeah, for sure. And then, kind of speaking of the West, Danny Green, part of the Lakers championship team, he said a lot of the vets for next season might sit out the first month or so because of the Lakers are, they just played 3 straight months in the bubble in Orlando. What do you think of this move? Or they might have limited minutes.
The NBA is not going to allow this because the NBA loves their money, as they should. I couldn't see it being a thing. I could very much so see the NBA postpone their month. If LeBron's in now, Kawhi, Jokic. In the East, obviously you got Jimmy Butler, Giannis. I mean, obviously they went on the second round. Celtics stars. So I could see the NBA pushing it back if the players, kind of come together. I understand, it takes a toll on your body, but that's why you get paid $40 million a year if you're a star, and if you're not, you're getting paid still $15, $20 million. So I think you got to take the workload, but who am I to say? I'm not an NBA player.
And I think another reason too, they want to try and finish the season during the summer is because they got the Olympics next summer. And I don't see LeBron playing in the Olympics, to be honest, next year. He's getting up there in age. He's getting up there in age. He's won a bunch of gold medals with Team USA. I think the U.S. team next year, if we do have an Olympics next summer, it's going to probably be a lot of the younger guys who haven't gotten that experience before.
Yeah, like you kind of said, it's going to be something like Devin Booker and Anthony Davis, and Jimmy Butler will be in there.
I was about to say Giannis, and I'm like, oh shit, he plays for Greece.
Yeah, right. So now Greece is actually going to be a little bit of competition. Jason Tatum will probably play, but you're not going to see the Melos. I couldn't see Kawhi playing. LeBron. I don't see those guys playing.
Yeah.
But it's okay. From a bubble that ended, I guess, a little bit over a month ago now, it feels like, at least, the NBA, to a bubble that just ended. MLB, the Dodgers just won the World Series, taken to 6 games. Tampa wins 3-2, Tampa loses in the series 4-2, loses game 6 3-1. A lot of interesting headlines out of this. Clayton Kershaw wins his first ring. Blake Snell gets pulled in game 6 early, and then Justin Turner. It's not a subject that we can ignore. A really bonehead move by him. So he tested positive let me go back. He tested inconclusive before the game. So, okay, they tested positive again. They tested him again. And so he tests positive. Dave Roberts pulls him out in the 8th inning. Dodgers win the World Series. And then Justin Turner comes back onto the field, touches the World Series trophy with the mask on, and then takes a picture with the team without a mask. The mask was off. What a dumbass move.
There is more to it. He hugged his teammates, kisses his wife, so his wife he can just automatically say his wife has COVID, so she's positive. What a weird ending to a
Kershaw hands.
Yeah, what a weird ending to a weird season. And if you're the Dodgers, how do you not get him the information before the game? Or it was something like there were reports in the 2nd inning saying, oh, they were waiting on the test. How did it take 6 innings to get the results for?
Yeah, so that's the argument that I saw was, okay, rapid test, you should get that back rather quickly. I don't know if the MLB had a lab there or if they took it to a local hospital. I'm assuming they took it to a local hospital where test centers were, and that's why it took so long. But then also, why was no one in the clubhouse to make sure Justin Turner did not leave, and why was he not isolated? That's number one. Number two is this guy's running around reckless, and so putting families at risk and everything, all because you want to celebrate.
Yeah, it was stupid move, Yeah, go ahead.
My last note is, okay, he tested inconclusive, and so people are saying, should he haven't even been playing? Should he have even, joined? The thing is why – another thing you can say is, why didn't MLB, postpone this game for a few hours? I know it's the World Series and, it's a bad look, but for players' safety, for fan safety, it just seems a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I guess you could. I'm not making this argument personally, but you could make the argument. He was around the team probably that whole day. Of course, the days leading up to it. Around the whole team, and he was in close contact. So there's probably a high chance that the whole team has COVID now. So way to go out.
Way to go out, Jazz.
Way to go out swinging LA. You get your first championship in 32 years. It was cool to see that they did win the championship. Have won since 1988. But going back to the game a little bit, we have to talk about Blake Snell getting pulled.
Yeah.
In the 5th inning, his pitch count was, I believe, around 75. He had allowed only his 2nd hit of the game. The dude was on fire. Had so many strikeouts. He was throwing just pure heat. And what in the hell is Kevin Cash, the Tampa Bay Rays manager, thinking? Why do you pull him? Because you got nothing to lose. It's an elimination game for you. He's not gonna play in Game 7. So
yeah, like you said, Kevin Cash is a very analytical person. That's fine sometimes, and so he was analytical in this situation. He thought, okay, if I have a left-hander, right-hander up against a left-hander, right-hander, higher chances. But there are some times, right, when you do not go with analytics, you go with your gut, and that was what should have been done. I get it. Analytics have changed the game of baseball. But, you shouldn't have done that. That was a real dumb move because he's the best pitcher on your team, number one. Number two is, it's not like the Dodgers are just striking out constantly. The hitters are hot. Corey Seager, obviously, we'll get back to him. Kiki Hernandez, Jock Peterson. You can go, guy after guy, and it's just why would you do this?
Yeah, you could argue and say maybe cost him the game. who knows? Who knows what would have happened if they'd stayed in?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it could have cost them the game. You could look at it like that. But the Rays didn't score after that, so obviously a little bit flawed. But to Corey Seager's credit, he won the MVP, gets the truck, congrats, get your Chevy. But we have to ask the question, should Clayton Kershaw have gotten it instead? I think so.
I think so too. He pitched 2 amazing games in the World Series. He didn't go that far into that. I think he only went 5-6 innings in each of his appearances. But I mean, for a guy he would have been the popular vote to win the MVP. I mean, the guy who's struggled almightily through the postseason throughout the years. I think he should have deserved it. Corey Seager, though, I mean, he did have a few home runs. He had a few big hits when it mattered. So I could see the argument for Corey Seager winning, but yeah. So that's pretty much what I'd say about that.
And I hate to ask this question because I like Clayton Kershaw. Do you feel the pressure still, but after 162 games, you probably start about 25 to 30 games. Your arm's tired, everything after playoffs. This was a max 20. Let's see. I just want to do the math real quick. 7, 5, and 3. So this was 24 games in addition to the 60 or something along those lines. So in a normal year, 84 games is around July. Like, your arm's not tired. Do we have to put like an asterisk next to the season? Just put Dodgers asterisk?
Well, I'm gonna come back to you with another question to answer your question. So baseball. I'm gonna say baseball. It definitely felt like the fakest sport that came back, and it just didn't ever feel like it was truly real. Because baseball is just one of those things. You got to have a longer season to truly see who is the best of the best teams. You only play 60 games. You only get a small sampling. I mean, that's like a little bit over a third of an actual regular season. So
yeah, and you got the Miami Marlins coming in
and the Houston Astros, who made the ALCS, wouldn't have made the playoffs in a regular season. I stand by that. They would not have. They had a losing record going into the playoffs, which to answer your question about Kershaw and the Dodgers. It is an asterisk. I'm not going to say this with the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Lakers. They played most of the regular season and they played extensive playoffs, so those seasons do count. This one's not counting in my book. I mean, yeah, the Dodgers won, but I don't think it counts.
Yeah, I mean, I think all said and done, you played about half the games. Your arm's not as tired or exhausted, and obviously, shout out to the Dodgers for winning. That's great for them. Put an asterisk next to it. But like you said, baseball didn't feel real this season. Like, it just it didn't. In other baseball news,
I was gonna ask you this: if the Yankees won, would it have been a real season?
No, it's still not a real season.
Wow.
It's still an asterisk next to it. I think that goes for any team. I mean, when you have 27 rings, at least 10 more than any other team. We don't need another ring. We could easily go 10 seasons of, I believe the Cardinals have the next most. It's either Cardinals or the Red Sox. They're at like 16. They could win 10 years in a row, and they still wouldn't have as many rings as us. Just saying.
Salty Yankees fan.
Just saying. But speaking about the Cardinals, Tony La Russa, former Cardinals manager, won the championship with them in 2011. It gets hired as the White Sox, new manager. Not a move I was expecting. I didn't. This was weird.
Whoa, he's 76 years old and he's gonna be a manager. You don't.
And COVID times too.
Yeah. My thing is, how is he going to relate to the game now, and how is he going to relate to the players? Because those players are 50 years younger than he is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the guys on the White Sox, noticeably Tim Anderson, who is arguably one of my favorite players, but it's just like, I got this old dude just telling me, like, I mean, that's not a better way to say it. Just like, sick. Like,
and I don't know why they fired their White Sox manager, the previous one this year, to begin with. I mean, they went to the playoffs. I mean, they played a really
good number one seed in the playoffs.
No, they were like.
Right, they got like looped down like 6th or 7th.
Yeah, they had like the third best record in the AL though, and they played a really good. They went like 3 games to the A's, which I mean it was a toss up for that series, but yeah, I don't know if I like this move. He's an old Cardinal. I've never liked him when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals, but we'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, and so he's going to be starting obviously sooner and later. looping into the 2021 season, that I'm assuming is going to start normally in April like it does. Who are the early favorites as we just ended the 2020 season? I say you have to go with the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Rays once again. But I don't believe they're going back to normal. They're going back to normal playoffs next year. So it's what, 6 teams or 7 teams?
I think it's 5. Because you got the wild card game, and then like it got the 4 teams.
Yeah. Yep.
I really like what I saw out of San Diego this year. I think San Diego, it was their first playoff taste. I think give them another chance. They're so young. They still got the bats. I think the Padres are going to be a scary team next year. Like you said, I think will the Yankees ever figure out how to get back to the World Series? That's my.
I think they will. I think you also have to look at the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland's always a team that can compete rather quite well, to say the least. Milwaukee, maybe they'd probably get back into it, having Christian Yelich and some of.
Could the Twins ever win a playoff game? It's been like 16.
The Twins can't. The Braves will probably get back in. They have some young guys. They'll honestly probably win the NL East. I don't see the Phillies winning it, but what can I tell you?
Should be interesting going to 2021, as next season it'll count again. So
yeah, for sure. And going from MLB to college football, our Saturdays. We had some COVID news this week. Go ahead. And yikes.
Some pretty big COVID news. Wisconsin, Nebraska. Obviously, the Wisconsin quarterback, Mertz or whatever, he tests positive, has to sit out for 21 days. And now there's an outbreak within the football team. And Wisconsin now, they had to cancel the game with Nebraska. And if only
I just want to add this in real quick. Yeah. I saw a report that said Wisconsin, if they played, they had to start their 4th string quarterback.
I saw a picture of that dude. That dude looked like he was 5'4", 114 pounds. He had some crazy cool name though too. He would have gotten absolutely murdered by Nebraska, I think.
That's hilarious.
The Big Ten could have avoided this problem if they got their act together and actually had a season start in September, like the rest of college football, instead of starting last weekend.
Yeah, like you said, if it was a normal season, teams have 2 bye weeks throughout the season, throughout the 13 games. And so with the Big Ten, they're going 8 straight games, boom, 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 boom. And now your whole team, pretty much, if you're Wisconsin, has to sit out for 21 days. That's 3 out of the 8 games. So if you win the rest, which you could obviously argue that they might, they'll go 5-0. And you're telling me that they deserve a bowl game?
Well, they'll get into a bowl game because
there's no fucking teams playing. Sorry, that's the first F word. That's my first. Now I have to make this explicit. Damn it. Damn it again. Shit. We're on a roll.
God, Sam, way to start. Way to go. But yeah, you can't seriously think that a 5-0 team is considered a playoff team. You look at the Clemsons, the Alabamas. I think if you want to be considered for a playoff spot this year, you probably have to be
I think 7 games.
7 to 8 games this year would probably be.
And you, do you want to argue this? Is 7-2 better than 5-0? If there's a 7-2 team, say there's Texas A&M that goes 7-2, or even 7-3. I don't know if they play 10, but is that better than 5-0?
For me, it comes down to a lot of it comes down to the eye test. Who just looks the best, and who have you played? So if you're like Wisconsin, who's 5-0, and your best win is a Michigan, for example, and you've played the crappy Big Ten teams like Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue,
which is where they are.
Yeah, you don't deserve a spot in the playoff. You don't even deserve a spot in the big bowl game. If they had a schedule they get to play Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan, and they beat all them, then I would give them some consideration. But it's a tricky situation. But
yeah, I don't. This is bad because now it affects other schools too. Say Ohio State played a team like Wisconsin. Well, the game can't happen, and if it can happen, Ohio State's going to kick the kid's ass who's 5'4" and the 4th string quarterback. So I don't. This is bad, man.
Shout out to Nebraska. You know what they tried to do this weekend? Immediately tried to schedule another opponent. They tried to play Tennessee Chattanooga. Shout out
Oh
to
my
Stephen
God.
Shout out to Stephen Yeager's Chattanooga school. But they and the Big Ten just said no. You're not going to get to play them because that would have
Yeah.
been an easy win and
An
out of state
easy
for the
one and
conference.
like scheduled a week in advance. Like
Yeah.
that's got to go
And
bad.
And speaking of another conference, who this just makes me laugh. So the MACtion, which kicks off next week, I think they only play Wednesday games too. They're only going to be playing Wednesday games, which
Nice.
I'll take it. Uh, they said you only need to play 3 of your 6 games to compete for the conference title. So you could have a team who gets COVID outbreak, goes 3-0, and is playing for their conference championship. That's a
So it's 4-0. So 5-0 is bad, but 4-0 is even worse. I mean, come on now.
I mean, in most years when you have these 4-5-0 teams from these mid conferences, they're not even ranked, so they're probably going
Yeah.
to be not even. Yeah, it's dude. This year's a mess with college football. It started out kind of okay, but it just seems like it's
turning. I mean, really, the NCAA should have said, we're all starting here. You're either in or you're out. You let us know by this date, and once that's done, that's done.
yeah. But the NCAA can't get anything right. So
No, I know. But speaking about games from Big Ten and MAC, we don't actually care about the MAC because it's the MAC.
hey,
Except Buffalo.
the
I like Buffalo.
The MACtion is good. It's
The
high
MAC
quality.
action.
It's high quality football. What else are you doing on a Wednesday night? Nothing.
That's true. But our games of the week. First one is Memphis, who is unranked at number 7 Cincinnati. Number 7 Cincinnati, coming off of a big win at SMU. 12 Eastern on your Saturday. Next one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Cincinnati wins that. I think Cincinnati's
Okay.
Yeah, Cincinnati's probably gonna win.
I'll probably take Cincinnati there. I just saw the next game real quick. Michigan State at number 13 Michigan. If you're the Michigan punter, you have one job: just kick the ball. Don't try to catch it and fumble it because you're gonna make your fans cry, and you're probably gonna lose the game. Never forget that moment. That kid with the glasses.
That game was the most insane. And I think they were both like in the top 10 or top 12 in the rankings at that point. So Michigan State's absolute trash this year. I think Michigan. I'm basing it off one game, but
I think probably Michigan.
I think Michigan wins. Next game, my friends down in Manhattan, Kansas State, traveling to good old Morgantown at West Virginia. I got upset alert. I think West Virginia beats K-State this weekend.
I don't know. I have not watched the West Virginia game all year, or last year, or the year before that, or even the year before that. I don't think I've ever watched the West Virginia game because they don't matter. Kansas State. Just going to be honest. SEC action, LSU at Auburn. LSU has not been good, 2-2 on the year. And then Auburn.
Neither is Auburn.
Not good either.
Who would have thought that this would have been an unranked matchup? Like at this point in the season, LSU is missing their entire team. I think War Eagle. Let's go Auburn.
Yeah. Auburn's probably going to win this one. Another Big 12 matchup. I just want to steal this one real quick. Texas at Oklahoma State. I got Texas. Hook 'em horns as always. Oklahoma State gets knocked out of the playoff contention right here.
I'm still rolling with my Cowboys. gotta. There's not much to cheer for in college football this year, so gotta cheer for my pick. Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Yeah. And then college game day at Happy Valley this weekend at State College. Penn State coming off an absolute heartbreaker to Indiana, the goal line game. Ohio State coming to town. Boy, Penn State, you're going to start 0-2. Ohio State is going to steamroll you. Ohio State, Justin Fields, they look so good. Ohio State. They'll probably go undefeated this year, I'm thinking, and they'll be a playoff team.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think this is one of those games where you could argue fans make a difference. There's nothing like a whiteout at Penn State. So I think fans could make a difference, but there are no fans, obviously. Give me Ohio State. And then speaking about college game day, just in a couple of weeks when we have the Masters, college game day is going to be live from Augusta.
On the during the third round of the Saturday coverage, that's going to be cool. I think I'm pretty sure that weekend too. I think there's like Alabama's playing somebody or Georgia's playing somebody, but it's SEC country. I think it's a super cool thing that they're doing. There's no fans at the Masters this year, which sucks, but it is what it is.
Lee Corso's gonna be there though.
Is he coming out of his house?
Probably not. Dude's probably gonna get COVID and yeah.
Dude,
Give
he's like
us
100. He's 102 years old. He
yeah.
has to be protected.
You can't say he's just gonna die. You can't be that negative. Give me some college basketball action. News, I guess.
So yeah, we got a little bit of college basketball news. Not really news, but just more like opinion based. At least for me, it seems like college basketball is doing a lot better job than college football is this year. With lots of conferences are doing a conference only schedule. They seem more aligned with one another, and it just seems like they have their act together more than college football does.
So I like the conference only because you have some really good conferences and others not so great. So I think that's where it hurts. For schools like the the conferences like the SEC, where Kentucky's really a powerhouse. Florida's somewhat in there every year.
They've been a good school the last few years.
Yeah, Auburn. And then you have conferences like the Big 12 where it's usually Kansas. Every once in a while, Kansas State shows up, Iowa. So I think that really hurts it because the ACC, they have Duke, they have Syracuse, they have Louisville, they have UNC, they have Virginia, they have all those schools. It just makes it seem like, okay, better competition, higher and come March Madness. So I like it, but I think it's a very big difference than, typical college sports.
Yeah, and then when we do have some non-conference games, I know there's a few tournaments that are still staying. They'll be played November, December. Kansas just announced that they're going to be playing a couple games in Florida, so their first game of the year is Gonzaga. So that should be a fun matchup.
Nah, Kansas should beat Gonzaga. I don't know how Gonzaga's good every year. They just are.
Dude, Gonzaga's going to be great this year.
Oh, really? I ain't watching basketball at 10 o'clock at night starting games. I'm too tired for that. I'm too old. That's
why I come in and I will stay up at all hours.
I will say this. You are speaking about basketball. Tell us about the start date for college basketball 2020, 2021.
Yeah, so it kicks off I'm pretty sure a lot of the schools now, they have made their schedules and it kicks off the day before Thanksgiving. So under a month for college basketball.
It's 26 days.
Yeah, let's go.
Like and then going from college basketball to the NFL. A little bit of NFL news first. Tua gets his first start against the Rams. I don't know if it's shocking, but I feel like it is a little bit because it's Fitzpatrick. I was about to say Fitzmagic. He is was playing rather quite well. So Tua gets his first start coming off the bye week against the Rams. Do you like this? Do you like Fitzpatrick in there?
Yeah, I don't know why if they were terrible, I would understand this move. But Fitzpatrick hasn't been bad for them this year. He's delivering. I mean, he's just a fun guy to be around. I felt so bad for him when they said, he won't be the starter. So my conspiracy is if you're Jerry Jones, get Ryan Fitzpatrick. Dallas won the division with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback.
No, we don't have an offensive line.
It doesn't matter. I think he's better than Ben DiNucci.
DiNucci. And then other news, a Giants player has tested positive for COVID. I'm assuming it's not a false positive yet. It might be. It always could be. But it's the Giants. They suck. Now, Let me ask you this. If a team goes 1-14 or 1-13, and then the Jets go 1-15, who gets the first pick?
Ooh.
Then do we go based off a win percentage? Because then the Jets get it because they lost more games.
I'm kind of cheering for the Jets to get the number one pick and for Trevor Lawrence to stay in college. That would be so funny.
And then Justin Fields goes over.
Yeah,
that's got to be. And then our other NFL news, AB gets his first game this weekend for the Bucs against, I believe, the Giants, actually. Actually, it is against the Giants because Tom Brady's about to be hyped up losing to them twice. AB, man.
He's an interesting fellow.
It scares me for the Bucs locker room, man. It scares me. Big spooky season.
It seems like he really hasn't been in the news a whole lot recently, which I guess for him that's a good thing. So
yeah, that's the only promising thing. And shall we go ahead and get to our picks of the week?
Let's do it. I'm down by 4 games.
Yes. So I stole a couple games last weekend as well. The 49ers over the Patriots, and then the other one was the Browns over the Bengals. But I did lose Monday night when the Rams beat the Bears, so I'm up 4 games now. First game, Falcons 1-6 at Panthers 3-4. Thursday night football. This comes out tomorrow, obviously, this episode. Who do you have?
Oh, you want to make me pick first?
Yeah.
I know whatever I pick, the Falcons are going to do the opposite. I'm going to pick the Panthers, so that means the Falcons will win. I'm going to pick the Panthers.
I'm so tempted to pick the Falcons because they put two solid weeks together. They beat the Vikings, and then they were this close to beating Detroit if Todd Gurley fell down.
They're the most frustrating team to pick in the NFL this year. It's just no matter they just can't seem to
I have to go Falcons here. They put together a few good weeks. I think they keep it going. Panthers obviously played very well last week. That's close though. It's close.
Yeah.
Jets at Chiefs. Go ahead, say your storyline for this one.
They're 19.5-point favorites. This game, I really hope it's not close because we're playing the worst. It's arguably the best versus the worst team in football. So I no surprises here. I will be picking the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's the Red Kingdom.
It's Chiefs Kingdom.
Oh, Chiefs Kingdom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought they played that song. Patriots at Bills. I got the Bills here. This is going to be, I think, very close. A field goal wins the game because the Patriots, their defense is always good. Their offense isn't that great, but the Bills' offense hasn't been that great either. Give me Buffalo.
I'm going to pick Buffalo as well. Patriots going to get to 2-5. Let's go.
It's crazy, man. That's crazy.
If they drop to 2-5, do you still think they're a good team?
I think they are still a good team. I think they just need better help on offense.
You're crazy.
That's all. They have a good defense. It's just their offense is questionable.
Yeah. And then moving into the next game, Tennessee at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is another team that's just really hard to pick this year. I'm gonna pick
Tennessee, man.
I'm gonna pick the Titans as well. I think that they're just a much better team. I could see this being a closer game. I think Tennessee's 10-point favorites, but I think I could see Cincinnati covering a spread.
I think this is I think we saw the Titans came back last week and they were inches away from winning that game. I think that's a very close game, but I mean, like I said earlier, I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. Who do you got for Vegas and Cleveland?
Yeah, so Raiders at Browns. Raiders 3-3, Browns 5-2. I think this is a tough matchup. I want to say the Raiders. They're inconsistent though. Going to Cleveland. You want to pick in the meantime?
No.
Damn.
No.
I have the Raiders here.
God damn it. I was going to pick the Raiders. I'm going to go Browns. Whatever you picked, I was going to go opposite, so I'm going to go Cleveland. I could see, like you said, I can easily see the Raiders winning this game, but I think the Browns win this one.
Next game, Colts at Lions. Colts 4-2, coming off the bye week. Lions 3-3.
Another tricky game to pick.
I got Detroit. I gotta steal this one first.
I want to pick Indy. So.
All right.
I like it. Picking a bunch of different games this week. I love it. And then
this could totally flip the script. You could be 5 games up on me after this week or something like that.
Or I could be 8 games down.
yeah. It's either one or the other. It's yikes.
Or after all this, we might just split and you'll still be 4 up. That could happen too.
That's what I'm kind of hoping for.
NFC North matchup: the terrible Minnesota Vikings travel to Lambeau. Packers are going to win.
Go Pack, go.
Yeah, that really is not a tough one. Next game, could be another interesting game here. Rams at Dolphins.
Yeah, Rams at Dolphins. Rams 5-2, coming off a Monday night victory. Dolphins obviously too gets his first start. I got the Rams here, just because it's Tua's first start. I want him to succeed, man, but going up against a defense like the Rams, yikes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think if Fitzpatrick was starting, I was honestly thinking about picking Miami to beat the Rams. The Rams, I don't think they're legit Super Bowl contenders. They haven't had the toughest schedule, and they have to play a lot of the NFC West teams, which that division is going to be fun to watch the rest of the season with.
Yeah, I mean, each other. Just kind of going off what you said, the Rams played the Cowboys week 1. I'm pretty sure it was Washington week 2. They played the Eagles. I don't think they've played the Giants yet, but it hasn't been a very – they did. Yeah, so they played the whole NFC East, and they went 4-0 against the NFC East. And so they're 1-2 outside of the division. Who was – the Bears. So, yeah. I got the Rams, but this is a close game.
Next game, you could probably say game of the week. Good old-fashioned rivalry between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 6-0, the only undefeated team, playing at 5-1 Baltimore. Their undefeated season will come to an end. I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, I have to agree with you here. This is one of those, I think, tight games. After the Steelers last week, the Ravens also made a trade, so I think the Ravens can go ahead and keep it going. I will say this is going to be probably a close matchup. Steelers do have the defense, I think, of the year so far. I don't follow them, but I know they played really good defense. We'll see what happens.
Should be good game.
Yeah, Chargers at Broncos, both 2-4 teams. Broncos coming off getting slaughtered. Chargers 2-4, make them 3-4.
Sweet, go Broncos. I'm picking the Broncos.
Make them 3-4, man. This is a close game.
This game's a toss-up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Denver, the week before, they beat the Patriots by, like, only scoring field goals, and then they lose to KC. The Chargers, just give me a little bit of hope, man.
Moving on to the next game. Yeah, another tricky game to pick. Saints at Bears. I'm going to pick Chicago. I think the Bears get the win. I
have Chicago kind of getting back here. They obviously didn't play so hot on Monday night. I think Nick Foles makes a good comeback. Close game, though. Close game.
Yeah.
Next one, underrated, I believe. I feel like it's underrated. 49ers 4-3 at Seahawks 5-1. Seahawks coming off their first loss of the year in an overtime thriller. Give me Seattle. This is a super close game, I think. I think this is like 1-point win.
No, I think Seattle comes back and they play a lot better than what they did last week. I still think they're legit Super Bowl contenders.
They also did make a trade for Carlos Dunlap from Cincinnati, so that definitely helps.
Yeah, I think Seattle gets the win. And I'll let you take this one here for your Cowboys.
Cowboys at Eagles. Cowboys 2-5. The DiNucci probably is starting. Eagles 2-4-1. I have to pick the not Cowboys. I'm not gonna say the team that I want to win. Excuse me, that I don't want them to win. But the team that is from Philly that has an American symbol as their mascot, they will probably win, but I cannot say that team.
I was 100% going to go with the Eagles, and I don't know why. I'm picking the Cowboys again.
Shit, I hope the Cowboys win. I hope I'm wrong in all honesty, but I can't root.
Dude, the Eagles are terrible. It's too bad.
You're right. You're 100% right. But this was like last week's matchup. The Cowboys were playing a very crappy team in Washington, and the Cowboys just did not show up. Yeah, the best thing that could probably happen to the Cowboys right now is they get COVID, but they don't actually get seriously harmed from it. They just have like a little cold or something. We have to sit out like 3 weeks. We'll just forfeit all those games. I'm fine with it.
So I'm thinking the Cowboys win and they take the division lead back 3-5.
Bold. And then I think we would definitely make a trade for Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
And then Monday night, Bucks 5-2 at Giants 1-6. You could obviously argue that the Bucks are a better team. The Giants suck. The Giants played close in 2 straight games now against the Cowboys, against the Eagles. Tom Brady his kryptonite is the Giants. I got the Bucks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can't. You can't pick the Giants. I think the Bucks, especially with their O-line, their entire O-line might be out. Tampa Bay wins.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be super
5
close.
Different picks this week. I like it.
So you can either go 1 up or 9 down.
I don't think either. I'm gonna think we're probably it's gonna be like 3-2 or something.
Yeah, I was thinking it's probably gonna be like you'll probably get to like 2 games down and then.
Or you may go 5 games up or something. I don't know, but it's.
If I go 9 games up, I'm about to just pick the same picks as you the rest of the season. Like I said, it's more embarrassing for you to wear Cowboys gear right now than it is for me to wear Chiefs gear.
Because Chiefs gear people will just be like, oh yeah, another Chiefs fan, cool, go Chiefs go. And then especially me, who's gonna be back in the DC area for a couple months next week. Boy, I don't want to wear Cowboys gear. It's gonna. And we have to wear it after week 17, so it's going to be the week leading up to the playoffs. So could you imagine if the Cowboys are actually in the playoffs?
That would be quite interesting, I must say. I would support.
Unless they get the 1 seed and have the bye.
Yeah, unless the Cowboys somehow get the 1 seed. Not likely. Bets of the week coming at you live. Remember, we are not professional gamblers. Don't listen to us. We say it for our own enjoyment. I'm going to be serious. If you say, oh, Sam said to bet this and this, you're probably going to lose, and you suck.
I think you picked the worst bet of all time last week with Notre Dame and Pittsburgh.
I had Notre Dame. I had Pitt covering the spread, and Notre Dame won. So
I think you had Pittsburgh winning outright. You're like, Pittsburgh's just going to beat them. And Notre Dame won by 35 points.
That was the Meds, man.
For my first bet of the week, though, Steelers at Ravens. Ravens are 4-point favorite. I think it's somewhat close. I could see like a touchdown game, like a 28-21 Baltimore victory.
Yeah, my first pick, Colts 3-point favorite at the Lions. I have the Lions covering the spread and actually winning it outright. It's one of those toss-up games, though.
Yeah.
Give me your second game. Oh, my goodness.
This one? Yeah, transition to the college level. Oklahoma at Texas Tech. Over-under is at 68.5 points. Give me the over. Final score might be like 75-71. These two teams play no defense. This was the famous Patrick Mahomes-Baker Mayfield game a few years back. I think they both scored over 60 in that game. They just – whenever these two teams play each other, they just do not stop scoring. I would bet my mortgage on this game.
I remember it was like Mahomes had like 7 touchdown passes and 450 yards, and Baker had like 500 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's bananas. Who's your
my second game is Notre Dame, 20-point favorite at Georgia Tech. I have Georgia Tech covering. I have to root against Notre Dame because Rudy was a fraud. He wasn't even a good player. He could have been literally a star. I mean, an absolute star at a D3 school or a D2. But then you go to Notre Dame and you suck.
God,
inspirational movie, though.
You're an asshole.
Hey, you know what? Don't lie to me like that. Don't tell me Rudy is a great movie because it is a good movie. It's just that the character, Rudy, the athlete, selfish.
You know we're trying to gain listeners, right, and not lose them.
I'm a huge Rudy fan. I love Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not going to win this weekend, so all you Notre Dame fans, you suckers.
Wow. My last bet is Jets at Chiefs. Chiefs 19.5-point favorites. Can you remember an NFL spread that was this big?
No. The Jets suck, man. Jets suck.
I just see a backdoor spread, though. Chiefs are up like 45 to like, I don't know, 45 to like 7. No, even if they're up by like 30, they still would cover the spread.
You're generous to give the Jets more than 15 points.
Could you see like a 41 to like 3 game? I could see that.
It's going to be, if I had to guess, 41 to 10.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the last time we played the Jets, we lost to them. That was 3 years ago.
Last time we played the Jets, we lost. Sam Darnold ran for like 400,000 yards on us. Not actually, but.
That's sad.
My third game is Texas at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a 3.5-point favorite. I got Texas. Hook 'em, as always. Wins outright. You suck, Oklahoma State. You're fake. You're frauds. Okay? You go to a bank with a mask on. That's what you're doing. You're robbing people. What we really want. We want small schools in the championship playoffs, whatever you want to call them. And you're sitting here, number 5. Just shame.
They do have the best running back name ever, Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba
Hubbard.
Chuba, yeah. Good running back. As always, don't listen to us when we bet on games because we'll probably lose you money and your wife will probably divorce you.
Listen to the Barstool Sportsbook. They probably know more than we do. So if you want gambling advice, go follow them.
I'm throwing this out there. Notre Dame, I'm tagging you on Twitter as well as your football team because I want you guys to know I'm rooting against you. I'll make enemies. What do you can't beat me up? You're Christians or Catholics. Like, go pray or something. I don't know. Just being honest. And then we also have a special interview guest. I'm going to let you introduce him, a little bit about him, and yeah.
Yeah, so we talked to Joe Horrigan. We reached out to him on Twitter. He was gracious enough to sit down and talk to us for about a half hour or so. He was a former Pro Football Hall of Fame director. Worked there for over 40 years. He's a pro football historian. He wrote a really interesting book about a century about the NFL. So give that a listen. He was super interesting to listen to. He could sit. I mean, like I told you this off air, but I could listen to him all day, like at a Thanksgiving dinner table, just talk about football. He's just a super interesting guy to listen to. So
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. Very nice guy, very generous for him to come on to our podcast. Give us a little bit of insight about his life, about his thoughts on the game today. And Twitter, T_A_G sports. That's going to be above me as always. Above Espen's name is going to be obviously our podcast name. What else? Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Notre Dame, like my tweets. And
And also, we have another interview coming up for Monday's episode. So a little, stick around for that on Monday. We are bringing on a PGA Tour winner. So we got a PGA Tour winner now coming on our show. A little bit about him. He's from the same hometown as me and Sam. So excited to have him on, and we'll be happy to have him on Monday. So a little teaser there. Yeah,
difference between him and us is that he shoots less than he shoots under par when he plays at the same course as us. Meanwhile, we're shooting over 100, so
way over 100. But
as far as scores, it just goes up.
Yeah, but excited for that. Excited for things coming up here this weekend. We got NFL, college football. It's basically the only two sports we got going on now, so a lot of football.
Yeah, for sure. And stick around for an interview featuring Joe Horrigan. All right. Take care.
Have a good weekend.
All right, so we're here with a special interview guest, Joe Horrigan of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You spent over 4 decades there, 42 years to be exact, in Canton. You now have moved on to Sirius XM and have your own radio show. You are also an author. The book title is NFL Century, The 100-Year Rise of America's Greatest Sport League. And although you are started out in football, your father had a football background as well, working as a sport writer and then working for the Bills. Did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to add on?
No, it's 42 years sounds awfully long when somebody else says it back to me. But, the truth is, my first paycheck I was 12 years old in pro football. At the time, my father was the American Football League public relations director. And my brother and I was 12, he was 13. We'd go into the AFL offices in the weekends and help out putting the scrapbooks together, reading back and forth stats from the previous weekend's games and so on. And we were the runners in the 1965 AFL draft. So, we go way back, but it is a story that really began with my father. And then he left the league office and went back to Buffalo, where we were from. And he was originally a sports writer there, but went back to work for Ralph Wilson as vice president of communication or vice president of public relations. So it was there that, I kind of got more intimately involved on the team level, literally from 1966 till today. I've had some form of a paid position other than the 4 years I spent in the military doing football. So it's been my life.
Yes. As you said, also you spent 4 years in the Air Force. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then your transition to Canton. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started into the questions. Espen, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so starting with the first question, and it's an honor to have you on our show, Joe. Looking forward to talking to you today. And starting out, so if you could start by telling the viewers a little bit about your background and kind of how you got started in the Hall of Fame in Canton.
Well, it was kind of one of those things where, like I was saying, my background was always in football, not just sports, but specifically football. And it was a passion that I had at a very early age. And I was transitioning out of the Air Force in 1974 and thinking about, just what I was going to do. I was going to school on the GI Bill and so on. And while I never really thought about sports as a career, I always thought of it as something to be involved in. But in any case, I began corresponding and a relationship with some folks at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Obviously, we shared similar interests in history and so on. And as that relationship grew and I continued furthering my education and so on, an opportunity came along there. Someone there, asked if I'd be interested in applying for a position. It was called Curator Researcher, and that was back in 1977 after school. And I thought, sure, why not? You know, that sounds like something, we'll give it a shot. And I truly went and kind of thought of it as a stopgap. You know, let's try this out, see if I like sports in terms of a working environment. Well, I had this in my mind, this 5-year plan, and then I would make my mind up and decide, well, 42 years later, I'm still thinking about, maybe I like this job. So it was one of those things where I fell into something that provided a real opportunity, because in '77, the Pro Football Hall of Fame was fairly modest. And there was a lot of things that could happen, needed to happen. And thankfully, I was given the opportunity to make them happen. And literally, when I started there, I was one of 9 full-time employees. So that's all it really was. And we exponentially grew and grew and grew in size and staff. But it was kind of paralleling the growth of the sport too. You know, the National Football League in 1977 looked much different than it does today. You know, we grew together. We grew with television as well. And that's a big thing too. As pro football really became a televised sport in the 60s, it also kind of gave the opportunity for sport to look at other ways to bring football to its fans. And ESPN became a very big partner with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and then later on NFL Network, and of course ABC and NBC, and every other network doing our game and so on. So television was a big part of our growth as well. So it was one of those things where I'm getting a little long-winded in your answer, your question, but where you fall into a position where so many different opportunities present themselves in front of you, and then it's what you do with them that makes them most rewarding. So I had just ample opportunity, ample encouragement, and potential to make things happen. So I was happy to be able to do it and do it hopefully well, and for 42 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think I read somewhere that the original building started out as like a small office or something like that.
Well, it was 1,900 square feet is all it was. And literally you went in the front door and went out the same door, you know, coming in and going out. I mean, there wasn't much there. When I got there, it was it's kind of like, if you can picture the design of the Hall of Fame, it's like a domed building and then pieces of pie after it. Well, there were only 2 there. Now there's 5 now, but it just kept growing as the story grew. And the way we presented it grew. You know, it was just never ending. So you never, in all the years I was there, you never went to work feeling bored. There was always a new challenge, new excitement happening. Things grow. The pro football story has a beginning, but as you know, it has no end. You know, it's a continuum. So every day you're looking at it from a new perspective or a different way of looking at the same thing, improve upon it using technology, using more information. You know, ready access for information is amazing and astounding. Just kind of give you an idea of growth. When I started at the Hall of Fame, what we would have called our library was 3 file cabinets, three drawer file cabinets, and a couple of bookshelves. Now we have over 40 million page documents and 8 million images and digitized files, and you name it. It's the permanent archive of pro football. So it grew so fast and so immensely that again, that's indicative of what the sport's been doing as well in that parallel universe.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then you spoke briefly about change, and it's hard to turn away from it, but the game has changed incredibly, both offensively and defensively. For offense examples, you can include, you look at the traditional quarterback in the 1980s, and so it was a very pocket passer quarterback, and now you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Deshaun Watson, you have Russell Wilson. So what are your thoughts on seeing, the changes throughout the year? Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really been, the game has always changed. It's constantly changing, and it, obviously it began without a forward pass being a part of the game. So it was a push shove, run game, a powered game, which for many years is what, dominated the sport. But even into the 70s, I think the 70s is the decade of the running backs, the O.J. Simpson, the Walter Paytons, Jim Brown coming out of the 60s and so on. So it was still growing, as a running league. And then passing came with changes as subtle as changing the hash marks, moving them in closer, giving no short side of the field. So it's kind of curious because on my radio show 2 weeks ago, I guess now, Warren Sapp and I were talking. He was saying, "Where's the defense? Where's the defense?" He says, "It's a great game, but where's the defense?" But that's really what, if you look at the game as it has evolved over the last 30, 40 years, it really has evolved offensively because of the forward pass. The forward pass makes the game more exciting, faster paced, a lot more scoring, that sort of thing. So it has dominated the sport, and most of the major rules changes, if you look at them, have been to affect passing, to improve offensive strategies, open it up more. Defenses have had to read and react as opposed to offenses. Paul Warfield once said, when he was playing, he considered himself a master of moves. He hated the zone defense. He says it was like taking the paintbrush out of Michelangelo's hand. Now all of a sudden my moves, I'm just moving from one zone to another instead of, playing one-on-one, man-on-man. So that changed for him. So those subtle things that we don't necessarily see when we're looking at the long-range picture of the game have changed it so much. And I know a question you were going to ask me later on about some odd statistics and all that. I go back to, Don Hudson. For your listeners that don't know who Don Hudson is, perhaps the best player in the National Football League history. He so dominated the league, it took Jerry Rice to break his records, not even all of them yet. And Don was playing in the 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. But he was so much ahead of the game as a receiver, a flanker, that it changed the way the game was playing. One year he had, I believe it was 72 receptions, which was unheard of in pro football. And the number 2 receiver had 27. So he was that far dominant. And when he retired, he had 19 records in the record book, the 19th being the most records in the record book. So, he just dominated the game. And there have been players like that. Jim Brown comes to mind, along when you start thinking about players who changed the game like that. Mel Blount on defense changed it. It just changes. And I think when we look at the game today with the passing, we've become so statistically oriented. We like stats. We like scoring. We like, the fantasy football has changed the way we consume the game. So it is kind of an evolution that has got us to where, I don't want to say the defenses in the running game are being forgotten. They're certainly not forgotten, but they're not being as accentuated as they once were. So it's cyclical. Things will change again when all of a sudden we start seeing, somebody sets a new rushing record of, whatever it might be. We're a great copycat league too. But obviously we like our game to be fast. We now like it indoors. We like it on multiple platforms. We like to see it in different ways, break it down, understand it, analyze it. It's not just cheering for the home team, it's cheering for the points scored by a particular player on another team altogether. So it's a very different way we watch the game. So I think we'll continue with this kind of wide openness for a while at least.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. And, we appreciate you going into detail for that one, and kind of talking about how the league has changed from Don Hudson to Jerry Rice to players like today, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and of such.
Yep.
Yeah, and then kind of sticking with the same subject of change, do you think the league has become softer in a sense, with more penalties being thrown? It seems like more than ever, with like pass interference and holding and just unnecessary roughness penalties. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think, I think the rules in regard to player safety are good. Yeah. Obviously, our athletes are so big and strong that purely unintentionally can get hurt by playing the game. So you have to make rules and teach techniques to protect the human first. So the game will never be good if we're losing players. So that I don't think is soft at all. I think it's wise. I think it's the big picture. I think it's good for everybody. It's good for the player, obviously, but it's good for the team, good for the game. As far as rules in terms of penalties, speed of the game and so on, I think that really, even in that vein, if you can remember when instant replay first started, we were all very concerned about how it would slow the game and that it wouldn't be conclusive and so on. Well, technology caught up with the concept. It is now much faster, it's much clearer, and it makes for a purer game in the sense of catching the things that need to be caught, so that you're not walking away after a game feeling like you were cheated by just somebody not making the right call or missing the call. You're going to have the ample opportunity to have the playing field level, so to speak, and do it expeditiously. And just like everything else, I think fans have caught up with the idea too. They start doing their own mental challenges or whatever it is. But you also have to limit it. You have to make sure that the human element is still there. And that's why I think the instant replay part has to be to the degree that it is most beneficial, but not overwhelming, so that we can still have that element of luck, a little luck, maybe every now and then a bad call is okay, and it all balances out. But it's all a part of just being consistent. And you don't want a game where one thing applies in this game, but not in that one. You need to have that consistency. And that's where that double check of replay and the officiating and the new rules and the closer observation makes it more consistent. So there's a consistent behavior. Just think in the last 2 or 3 years, the dramatic change in the way our defenses have been taught to tackle. And we don't see in just 2 years, we see much better technique. Now, you might argue that it's not as effective as, slamming somebody to the ground and stopping a play, but that's neither here nor there. We can learn things. We can teach things better. We can play the game better. We can make it a better game.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to kind of hear your thoughts about that. People argue all the time, oh, bad call, good call, referees sucked, referee did this, great. I guess my next half question to kind of go off of that one is, do you think that, obviously it's smart, but what are your thoughts on like a coach, say 3rd and 25, right? Let's just throw it up and there's 2 chances. Actually there's 3. A, it's going to be either pass interference and you pick up the first down. B, it's an interception. It's almost like a punt in a sense. Or C, it doesn't go well, 4th down, you punt. Like, is that, what are your thoughts?
I've been watching this year. Now, this year is a very, very different year, obviously, as we know. There was no training camp, no preseason, and you're seeing things that you probably would not have seen at this point in the game in a normal year. Because I do think there is a little bit, no home field advantage. There's a little bit more of a temptation to just be a little more risky taking. That didn't sound very good, but risk taking in the sense of a situation where I've got nothing else to lose. But I think also, you have to, factor in there that this is kind of a temporary year in a sense. There's things being tried out there that I don't think we'll see later, even in this season. And a part of it is part of not having that home field with the crowd noise and being audibilizing at the line of scrimmage, and you hear it. It's like it's different. But again, and I'll throw a little history on this too. The idea of Hail Mary on 3rd down and all of that's not new. This is kind of, we used to have the quick kick. Players used to punt on 3rd down. Just say, we're not getting anywhere, we're too deep, get rid of the ball, we'll play defense. So there were strategies like that always in the game. Not as overt as they are today, maybe, because obviously athletes are bigger, faster, stronger. But it was always a strategy. You don't have to use 4 downs. You don't have to be predictable. You can try something else. The onside kick was, the perfect example of that. And they became so good at it, we've changed it so they can't use it. So, it is that kind of read and react mentality of the situation. And I think this season is elevating that a little bit because of the just change of circumstances that we're seeing a little more wide openness than probably would have at this point.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And then our next question is, where do you see yourself and in terms of football? Do you consider yourself more of a football historian or just a football fan? Where do you see yourself aligned on that kind of scale?
It's an interesting one. I read that question, I thought, gee, I have no idea. Obviously, I'm a fan, or I wouldn't have done it for so long. But you'll always be a fan, and that's one of the beautiful things about the job that I've had. I've been in a situation, we're the good news people. You know what I mean? We don't have to field a team. We don't have to make those awful decisions of cutting a player or whatever it might be. We're there to just record and present and preserve the history of the game. So to that, as a fan, that's a great opportunity, but it also builds you as an historian. You're building this block of information that we're not only preserving, but we're disseminating. We're allowing folks like you to talk about it, to learn from the past, to look at the future. And at the same time, there's this other element of the sport that doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think, at times, and that are the positive values that it teaches. And, in times of crisis, we look to our civic leaders, we look to our political leaders, but we also look to our team communities. It's a binding thing. It joins us together in a way that nothing else does. And we bury our differences. We're united in our spirit. And I think that's a really positive thing that sport, not just pro football, but sport has taught us a lot. We're usually ahead of the curve in society with sport. So I think that's another thing that, when you say historian, fan, whatever, all of those things factor into making my life very interesting, and hopefully what we share with others, helps others too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet you have some wonderful Thanksgiving stories.
Oh yeah.
But transitioning to something you kind of touched on earlier, what is this single craziest, or for that matter, for a season, a career, or even a game, what are the single craziest statistics you've ever seen over the years?
And I'm not a big stats nut, because it's it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And the minutia that we get in today is probably what's the most, I don't want to call it interesting, but the most fascinating to me, that people actually care about whether the guy was looking left when he caught the ball with the right hand. It just gets down to, getting so detailed. I kind of like to focus on just the end result. In other words, man, he made a great catch. That I don't really need to know, how that compared to, the wind is blowing from the left side or the right side or whatever else it is. I really still love the purity of the game and the pure athletic accomplishment. So stats don't really impress me that much. The only thing that I guess I do appreciate is when a statistic really demonstrates something that I think is much more than what the single play represents. In other words, when let's say Peyton Manning sets one of his records, he hands that record ball to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's a wonderful artifact. But you know what it is? It's just one symbol of thousands of hours of work that he put into his career to have that one moment. So that's kind of it's not a statistic, but it is a different way of seeing what you just witnessed. You witnessed a record play. Play might not have been much at all, but it took him hours, thousands of hours, to get his career to the level that he could play at to do that.
Gotcha. And so I guess we'll eliminate the next question, replace it, because it's about statistics. But what's the process like? So when a player breaks a record, whatever that record may be, most interceptions, most, whatever, mm-hmm. How does that go about getting to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Well, generally we're watching, our staff watches the game, very closely. And, if we see milestones on the cusp, we start alerting the team, hey, we'd be interested, should this happen, that either we make an in-person presentation if the player and the team is so willing, and 99% of the time they are, or if it's spontaneous. You never know when somebody's going to return a kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown. But whatever it is, you try to work with the team, work with the player, and let them understand that what we are doing is, we're freeze framing that moment in time for them. And that unless they have, 300,000 people going through their family room every year, nobody's going to see it more. No more people can see it than they could see it at the Pro Football Hall of Fame and appreciate what they did. And what we're doing is our mission is to honor the heroes of the game. And that's what we're doing. It's not a tribute to the Hall of Fame. It's a tribute to them. And I think more and more as time has gone on, I've seen it change dramatically from when I started to now. Players are anxious to be represented in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, if just for a play. We are just in the midst of finishing a project in downtown Canton called Centennial Plaza. It's a beautiful memorial service, really, to all the players who played in this game in the first 100 years. Their names are now inscribed in pylons in this beautiful architectural background in downtown. And just to have your name on that wall down there, to walk up and say, I was a part of this 100-year history of this most wonderful sport, the best sport in America, it really means something to people. It means something to the person who's there. It means something to their family. So that's kind of, when you say collecting artifacts, that's really what it's about. It's memorializing.
That's cool. That's awesome for sure.
Yeah, and then kind of transitioning a little bit to some to the Hall of Fame and who is in the Hall of Fame. Some currently and recently retired players that have kind of are on the back end of their career. We had a few of them that were curious just to see what your thoughts were on. We can just go one by one here on this list.
Sure.
So starting with the quarterbacks, Eli Manning, of course, just retired for the Giants. Had 2 Super Bowl wins. He's kind of one of those big question marks. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't vote, or fortunately, I don't vote. I like it better than I don't. But the truth is, here's the biggest challenge for anybody on any list. The list is long, and the numbers that can get in are small. And sometimes, you have to look at, we have a maximum of 8 that can be elected to the Hall of Fame. Well, every year there's somewhere around 130 nominees coming out. So it's a process, and it is a year-round process, where the selectors, vote that down to workable numbers, down to a semifinalist of 25, then to 15, and then there's senior nominees and contributor nominees and now coach nominees. And then you work from that at a physical meeting at the Super Bowl. But what I'll tell you is that there are so many players and coaches and contributors that I've said this to over the number of years. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I mean that not to be put off by not saying what I feel. I can't say what I feel because it is impossible for me to judge every player, coach, or contributor that comes down the pike. That's why we have this committee of experts to look, and they go through. They use the statistics. They use the abstract things that leadership brings to light, and you have to make tough decisions. So when somebody is a finalist or even a candidate for the Hall of Fame, I congratulate them because that means that they're at least at that level where they're being considered. And to be considered should be, and it is, a great honor. Sometimes it's a victim of numbers, victors of numbers in a given year, maybe positions being looked at in that year, or maybe it's just a simple oversight sometimes where, my gosh, we missed this guy this year, let's get him next year. So it's very, very difficult. And I know you have a list of guys, and I looked at them and they're all on that list. They're all potential Hall of Famers. It's just going to be a question of what the pecking order is, who bumps you. When you have a Peyton Manning retire, I think somebody else loses a spot in the line just because he's going to be up there that year. So it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
That's a super, super interesting answer for sure.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of, I don't want to say go around that answer. So what is the typical process? The players get an email, do they get a message saying they're 125?
Well, here's this is another thing that we've grown with. Television has become a big part of that even. We have the different processes. In other words, when we announce our class at the Super Bowl, the Saturday before the Super Bowl, who was elected, literally 2 weeks later, we're starting the process all over again with the nominations of first-year eligibles of the upcoming season. And when we say first-year eligibles, it's those players who played at least a minimum of 5 seasons and made one all-something team. And anybody can nominate somebody to the Hall of Fame. They don't have to be nominated by the Hall of Fame or a selector. So typically hundreds of nominations come in. They're usually for the same people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You may have 100 people send in somebody's name. And it's not 100 different candidates. That's one person 100 times. But there'll eventually be around 130 qualified candidates to be on the minimum standards. And then that is voted down to 25 semifinalists. And that semifinalist list, that's when the rubber hits the road. You're really looking very closely now at these guys that have had their career over for at least 5 seasons. And then again, that's done by mail ballot with our selectors, 48 selectors. And then we'll take that and we'll vote that down to 15 modern era finalists. And concurrent with that, there's a subcommittee that votes down either 1 or 2 seniors or contributors, and now a coach, another committee for a coach. So in other words, we'll go into the meeting at the Super Bowl with 18 finalists. And there's where the debate begins, and that's done live with the selectors. So there's massive preparations, about a 10, 12-hour meeting, goes on, and believe me, it spills out into the halls before, after, and during. But it's a really, really thorough process. And then eventually, they have to gain 80% positive vote to be elected. And then it's over. And then we start it all over again. It's a year-round process. It continues every day of the year, the year we're looking at it. But our television partners have made TV specials out of each of those stops. We'll announce the preliminary list on NFL Network, and then we'll do the semifinalists, the finalist list. The meeting will even have some cutaways into the meeting, and then obviously the honor show at the NFL Net or at the Super Bowl. It's a main part of that program. So it's all been brought to the fans again on so many platforms. Television is being our partner in that, but it goes every way you can imagine.
Awesome. Espen, I'll let you take the next question.
Yeah. So, like we mentioned earlier, you're a well-known author. You wrote the book NFL Century: The 100-Year Rise of America's Great Sports League. And I was curious, what was it like trying to summarize, a century of football? I can't even imagine how you would do that.
Yeah, it was the first thing I thought of too. It was like, oh my God, what did I do? I left a lot of first-round draft picks on the floor. It was one of these things where, when I started thinking about it, probably about 2 years before the 100th anniversary was coming up, knowing that obviously somebody was going to do a book or multiple people would be doing books. And I just really thought I didn't want to do a book that was encyclopedic in the sense of day-to-day, chronology. That had been done by others, and let's face it, a lot of books have been very specific to Super Bowls or championships or teams. I was looking for that broader vision of what was not only important to know about the league history, but some of the things that were maybe a little less accurate than they should be. I wanted to make sure we got the record straight on some things, and then at the same time throw in some things that I just found were interesting. It didn't have to be just a straight chronology, and I bounced around a little bit. I stayed roughly chronological, but I tried to be relative in the sense of not just great players. We talk about great players and great teams all the time. I wanted to make sure we understood the men behind the scenes too. The commissioners, the owners, the people that, put their blood and sweat into the game, not as, we look at today, the great successes that the teams are. There were a lot of failures before, and when you discuss history too, you have to be comfortable to talk about the uncomfortable. There were things that weren't good that we needed to address too. We need to acknowledge and say, we made a mistake, we moved on, here's how it works now. So I was looking at it from a lot of different perspectives. But to your point, once I started, I thought, oh my God, how do I do this in one book? So it ended up what it ended up. I got a lot of great stories that I did not include. I'm still toying with another edition maybe, but there's just so much what I would call, it's history, but it's nostalgia. It's where were you when, it's sort of stuff that I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. And then my last quick question for you, what is a more fun game for you? The Super Bowl being the last game of the season, or the pro football preseason game that they play in like August, being in your backyard? Which is more of a better time for you?
Well, I work both of them. So they're, often I was saying this last year was the first year in 32 years that I hadn't gone to the Super Bowl. And I said, I've never seen Super Bowl commercials. What's all the fuss? But to me, obviously the Super Bowl is that's what you play the game for, to get that game. And you're looking at the hopefully the two best teams from the two conferences. But it's that buildup too. There's some great, playoff games to get there that, I get anticipated. I love the playoffs. That's just, how can you not like that? And when you have a team that, makes the run through the playoff, those players are playing an extra season, literally, against the toughest competition. So that's kind of how I love watching that happen, is who emerges, who can get through those extra games against the toughest competition and then end up in the Super Bowl and ultimately win it. And even if you don't want it to get there, we lose a little bit in our history here about, we have two conferences, there were two leagues. I really like it when we start thinking about that again, because we have conference titles too. You're the AFC champion, you're the NFC champion. We can't lose sight of that. They represented their league, their conference. But that Super Bowl is probably the big one.
Gotcha. And then my second last quick question is, if you can, who is in the Super Bowl this year come 2021?
Oh my goodness, I can't tell
I know.
who's going to win
I
next
know.
week.
Too many teams. Too many teams now.
There is so much opportunity this year. If you look at, we don't even know if we're going to have a full season. It's so difficult to project. But obviously, there are players and teams that look like they're really they're going to be there. You're going to see Seattle there. They're just certain players. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, my goodness, this is you talk about a franchise of consistency. I love the Steelers and the way they've managed their franchise the last 50 years. So you're gonna see those teams that are committed to winning. And I always say this, that winning teams start at the top. Ownership, management, down to coaching, down to a quarterback. If you get those three main ingredients, you got a good shot. And a good shot means maybe it takes 2-3 years to build these days, but you have to have those components. You could win with 2 of the 3, but you're not going to have dynasty years.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have commitment on all levels to be a dynasty.
Yeah, it's awesome. That wraps up all of our questions. Espen, do you have any more?
No, I think it was, super interesting to listen to your illustrious career of being a football historian, working in the Hall of Fame. We cover the NFL as probably one of our main topics on our podcast. So it was really exciting to have somebody like you on who could share their info and share, a lot of the background of the NFL's history. So we just really appreciate you coming on to talk to us.
Appreciate you inviting me and having me on again. I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You take care now. Thank you, and stay healthy.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Have a good one.
See you later.
Bye now.